The water crisis in South Africa is the topic of our show tonight. We ask, what about the impact on the working class? You're watching the Workers' World Transmission Studio at Cape Town Television. This is our new time slot for this live edition. Weekly at this time with rebroadcast on Sunday nights, Workers' World Media Productions present this hour-long program as a service to our workforce in South Africa and as information for you at home. We deal with social issues of our time. The program is presented by Ayanda Nabe. Standing by with your comments and opinions is Jarina Nogwazi. Jarina will bring you the latest edition of Labour News, both the local and international topics. Hey Jarina! Now, in a moment, you will meet tonight's panel who will be debating our topic, the water crisis in South Africa, and how this will impact the working class. We are free to air to Cape Town on Channel 32 and broadcasting to Africa via satellite. Thank you for joining us. Workers' World begins now.
From England to Poland, every step across the ocean, the ruling classes them is in a mess. Oh yes, the capitalist system a regress, but the Soviet system now progress. So which one of them you think is...
Welcome to our weekly labour show, Workers' World, right here on CTV. The recent drought and water shortages in the Western Cape have highlighted the importance of water in our lives and the need to secure its supply. Other provinces have also faced problems of drought and water shortages as well as poor water management, with supplies being unfit for human consumption due to pollution and poor maintenance. However, these water supply problems are experienced all over the world, and it is even predicted that wars will be fought over access to water. But have these problems of water supply impacted on the poor working class? With us to discuss this, we have Arlene Barnes from the Bishop Levy's Action Community. Yes. Hello and welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Ibrahim Fourie, Housing Assembly Deputy Secretary, Western Cape. Hello and welcome. And on your screen, you're looking at Sabrina Reiters from Q-Town Community Activist. Hello, Sabrina.
Hi, Ayanda.
Before we discuss the very important topic of this evening, we watched this short insight prepared for us by the Workers' World Media Productions team.
The essential life giver of entire population. The Cape Town situation, it'll be the first city ever that has no water in the Western world.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of talk. Hey, this is the plan, that's the plan, but we're not seeing any action.
We will not allow a well-run city to run out of water. So we now have to plan that we are going to be in this permanent drought, because the scarcity that is there is the new normal.
The one day you've got the mayor saying a well-run city will never run out of water, and the very next day she says if you residents don't stop using water as much as you are, there'll be no water left by December.
The point about planning for water is you have to look a long way ahead. Cape Town City in particular thought they would be able to get away with doing nothing until 2022.
Who's going to tell the truth about what's actually going on so that people can arm themselves?
What happened? What went wrong? Essentially in 2007, as part of these reconciliation studies, a study was published for the Western Cape supply system, as it's called. One of the things that we had done in the department was to set up a planning system. And it said, look, at current rates, by 2012, 2015, you will need to provide more water. And to get that extra water, here are some things you can do. So those options were all put on the table as long ago as 2007, with the warning that by 2015, you are going to have to do some of these things. And they weren't done.
The one thing that really worries me is the language that's getting used in the communication that comes forward. So we are looking at What the hell are you looking at? You knew about this in 2004. Where have you been?
In 2013 and 2014, there were some really good rains. And as a result, when it rains, people don't use as much water. And so what had happened during the wet season is not only had consumption in the city gone down, but the farmers hadn't used their full allocations, which made it look like that there was more water available. So what you find is that the consumption had gone down, and the mistake that the Cape Town officials made was to assume that all of that reduction was because of their efforts to encourage water saving, and that was a very serious mistake.
I think we're in a dire situation, and I think people are not fully aware or don't comprehend where we are and how bad the situation is.
I think that we're going to run out of water by the end of January. You'll have to go and collect your water. Who collects your water? What container are you going to use? What car are you going to use to go and fetch it? Where's it going to be fetched from? Are they going to arrive on time? Do they have enough drivers? If you've got a lady that's at home with her kids, how does she carry 25 litres of water into her car? When it gets home, what do you do with that 25 litres of water? These are the scenarios that we haven't even covered yet. And the key to it is the 500 million litres a day. If you get to 500 million litres a day, then we will not run out of water, or we're not going to hit it. So it becomes the residents, it becomes the community's fault, not the politicians who've been too blind to see.
So the immediate area where I'm from, water meters has been installed about 10 years ago. And people have been living off less than 23 litres of water per day.
There is really no purpose in a blame game because we don't have the time, and I believe so. But it is also important to put the facts straight. It's not the municipality's constitutional mandate to provide bulk water supply. It is the role of the national government, the Department of Water and Sanitation. It's set out in the Constitution and in the Water Act. In addition to that, we have been sensitive around how we price water. Our water tariff is pro-poor. The first 6,000 litres of water is free for indigent households. So if you are poor, you do not pay for those first 6,000 litres of water per month. If you are wealthy, you have to pay for it. And this is how our water tariff is structured. And as we look at the restructuring of our tariff to pay for some of these water augmentation schemes, we will ensure that we craft a water tariff that allows the wealthy to pay, because we don't believe that we should be subsidizing affluent communities, and it is our duty as the city to ensure that we protect and assist and support poorer households.
Hello, my name is Ayanda, and of course today we are joined by a live audience who dared the rainy weather of Cape Town to be with us tonight. I welcome you all. But coming back to my panelists, Ibrahim, could you explain to us or talk to us about some of the problems that we have with accessing fresh water in the working class community in particular?
Look, within the working class communities, people have difficulty accessing water because they have this water management device at this moment in time, which provides 360 litres of water per day, and which the average household in the areas, the working class areas, consist of 15 to 17 people. And if you work out what that daily water usage would be, it comes to 1,200 on average for a household of 15 people. So currently with the 350 litres of water, people are struggling. People are having to make decisions whether they have to cook or do the washing. People have to think about having water at night, especially the pensioners. We hear them asking neighbours for some water to drink chronic medication. So we can also see the health impacts it has within our communities. Children with skin diseases. We see in informal settlements, due to a lack of access to water, we see children die of a curable disease such as diarrhea, which could be prevented by consuming enough water on a day. But that's the struggles of people and their access to water.
Arlene, what are some of the stories that you've witnessed? You know, you're an activist in your community. What are some of these things, stories that you can tell us about that you've actually witnessed communities suffering because of lack of water?
Yes, we have in Bishop Levers, at the flats, the people is without water for days, for months actually. From December, we had a big problem because it was something to do with the valves They couldn't, the pressure of the water was too low, so that people at the bottom will get water, but when it comes to the people on top, they had to wait till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and this is elderly people that's staying there, and it is a big problem. And what the people do, they need to buy water from the neighbors, because that people also need to monitor their water. So it becomes a very big problem to us in Bishop Leyvers. We go out to the community, we get there, the water, the people don't even know how the water meters work. So it is a big problem. They think the water is off, but at the end of the day, the water was all used up because they're not even educated on this, how to use these water meters. So it become a big problem. People is for days without water. We in Bishop Leyvers, we have our own RDT, we work with them, so we use them to go out to the people, at least so that the water can just be putting on whenever it's off. So when there is no water, or there is a fault at the water, RDT goes out and they help our community so that they can be connected to the water again.
Sabrina, you're from Q-Town, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're also community activist.
Yep.
Do you agree that, in fact, can you attest to the fact that there's poor education on how to use water in our communities?
Our community is not really educated about. There was a meeting at the Josephstown. That was the day with the day zero.
Yes.
And then the mayor said that she knew that this day was going to come, climate change. They knew about the climate change, but why didn't they prepare for us for this time with climate change? People are seriously suffering. They're putting in these meters, and then they put it outside the house, just in case they come there and there's dogs. Now they put it outside. Now people's bills come up to 6,000 rand. And then they just assume that is the water that you used. And then afterwards, they send you the bill of 1,000 rand, then they still expect you to pay that 600 rand, and the new bill of the 1,000 rand has come. People are suffering. You use your toilet, now after the third flush, and it's like, guys, after the third flush, you only use the toilet only after the third flush. Use the toilet, using of toilet, then you flush. I mean, that is unhygienic. We have been saving water. People wash twice in a bath. I mean, how is that possible? You come with your germs, with your washing, and then the next person must wash. People are saving water due to this, but now the bills are going up. I mean, that is unfair. Like one of the guys on the panel said, the seniors are suffering. What do they earn? They need to buy groceries, clothing, medical bills. Electricity is just so sky high. And what about their water? This water issue is unacceptable. Our poor are really suffering. But the poor is the people that's saving water. But now they expect, okay, I'm not going to get a huge bill. By the end of the day, the bill is sky high. But it was like, I was saving water, now how come the bill is this high? I mean, it's unacceptable. We the poor, we are the people that are suffering.
Well, it's very interesting. This is the first session of our show, and of course, some of the issues that we've been hearing, our panelists complain about was the water management devices that were installed without people's consultation. We are talking about the education on the water usage, which has not been adequate in many of our communities. And of course, there are concerns that perhaps government can do a lot more. The another issue that was raised was the incorrect billing, which is something I would really want to come back to say this incorrect billing. What are communities doing about it? Are we even having plans to engage whoever it is that bills us? Of course, in this case, it's local government. But of course, at home, we'll go on a short commercial break, and don't go anywhere. just joined us, you're welcome. We are talking about the water crisis in South Africa and what impact does it have on the working class. But first, we move to our audience. I know there's someone who really wants to ask a question. Please, Faiza, you may go ahead.
Thank you, Ayanda. And thank you to the panelists. I think what's highlighted here is that these are three different communities and we have the same problems. I really appreciate that input from all three of you. I think it's important for us to see that our struggle is not separate, even though we're fighting in our separate corners. We should be pulling things together. But I think what's mostly at this moment bothering me is this new bylaw that has been passed, even though 38,000 people opposed. You know, they sent messages to the city of Cape Town because there was that supposed consultation period, which now for us we can actually see it was false because 38,000 people said no to this bylaw and it had still been passed. And so my question maybe to the panelists is what do we do about this? Because now what this bylaw says is that they have the right to come and install these meters without permission, right? You don't have to be at home, you don't have to give them permission, they can just install it. Another question is, if that bylaw is only passed now, what about the meters that have been installed illegally then? They are now saying to us, the meters that has been installed without people's permission before this bylaw has been passed means that is illegal. So what's going to happen to that? You know, it's only legal now. So I think I want to kind of raise that question and just to check with the different communities, what's the way forward? You know, what do we do from here? Because clearly it's an attack on the working class as a whole.
Thank you very much for that. Very interesting input. Of course, that was a very interesting input that we'll come back to. But I want to talk about the leaks. You know, we've always heard that there are leaks underground and government has not fixed, the infrastructure is poor. You know, are there any campaigns around these issues? Yes, please.
The Water Crisis Coalition had spoken about at one point that we need to campaign for the city to fix the leaks. Because on a daily basis, the city, they loses about 100 million liters of water that runs away due to leaks. And we can see those exorbitant amounts of that the people receive is due to leaks underground because they cannot access that leaks. It's maybe underground, or it's maybe in the street underground, and I mean people have to pay. We get people in the area where there's 5 people living in that house, but the bill come in 24,000 rand a month. So I mean that's obvious that there should be a leak. And when the city is also now installing these water management devices, they are not looking at the leaks on the property.
So when they are, yes, please go ahead.
About these leaks, if you have a leak, then the city, now your bill runs up to 10,000, right? Now you tell the city, I've got a bill of 10,000, I have a leak. Now the city wants you to have that leak fixed, and then the city wants you to have a qualified plumber, and the city wants a letter from this plumber to state that I am qualified. And only then the city will say, okay, fine, you don't have to pay it. Some people they don't have the money to pay these plumbers to come out. And maybe most of these pipes is like old. I mean, how many years are these houses standing? Like, for example, if you have a house of like 60 years old, you need to rewire your house. You need to rewire it yourself. Because obviously the rewiring is old, your house could burn down. That is why a lot of houses burn down in my area. Now, what about these pipes? Who need to fix these pipes? You need to open your yard. You have to check where's the hole in the pipe. Now, you don't find the hole on a certain place, you have to open your whole yard. Now, where does the money come from to do that? Now, the city, they keep you liable for the leak that is in your property. You have to fix it, which is unfair. But they will put new lights in, and they will put new wires in the road, and they will put underground wires. I mean, that is for lighting, right? For crime and stuff. But what about the community? What about the leaks? Those houses doesn't even belong to the people yet. People live 100 years in a house, and the houses does never belong to them. They don't even have a title deed of this house. So that means if that is the city's house, why can't the city fix it? Why can't they pay for it? Why must the community pay for it? They can't afford to have qualified plumbers to fix their stuff.
That's a question to the city, and I hope they're watching. Why can you not pay for the plumbing errors in your houses that you own? You know, there's another point that I wanted us to really talk about. It was this issue of day zero. We've heard about day zero, day zero. So one was interested to know, what do you know about day zero?
According to me, where is day zero? They made, everybody was running up and down, collecting, buying water and all those things. What happened to day zero? It was changed from date to date. It never happened. People were spending lots of money of buying water. Even this water devices that they put on there, it comes back to the leakages and all that again. They don't check those stuff. If they do check all those stuff, they just install the meters. And now there's a law out that they can just come and install the meters everywhere. So how is that going to help the community? So they're not going to check for the leakages. They're not fixing the leakages. They're not checking the leakages. They're just installing the meters. It doesn't make sense to me. And the leakages has never been looked at for many years, as one of the panel members said. It's truth. It's old stuff. It needs to be fixed. It can't live. That is why the water bills. How can the elderly people that earn 1,600 rand a month pay a water bill of 52,000 rand? It doesn't make sense.
You must be running a very big factory in that
Yes,
yard.
true.
Ibrahim, day zero, is there such a thing as day zero, or was it a hoax?
I think I mean, climate change, we know these things are happening. But I think from the city side, it was a scaremongering tactic to privatize water. Even within that period, we had the National Minister of Water and Sanitation attend a march in Cape Town of the Water Crisis Coalition. And directly after that, it was declared a national disaster. So they are pushing privatization. And then they scared people to say, look, we are running out of water, we must save water. We as the citizens are now responsible. Are we using water adequately? And it's clear the working class do not waste water. We use it essentially. It's for our essential use. We need to wash and clean ourselves.
I get you. I get where you come from. But we'll come back on that issue shortly after this short commercial break at home. Don't go anywhere.
You're watching a Workers' World Media presentation. We will return after these messages.
Thank you for joining us. And of course, we were talking about the privatization of, the water crisis and its impact on the working class. And of course, we start with our audience. We seem to have an audience that is quite engaging today. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity. I just want to speak about the day zero scheme, what the city council tried to introduce.
Yes.
Why the city council, when the DA pushed the day zero back, was a struggle through the mass struggle of the working class on the ground, like the water crisis coalitions, independent organizations. That's why the DA pushed the day zero backside. It was not about the free will. There was a mass resistance together with the crisis coalitions and independent working class organizations. Thank you.
It's very interesting that you raised that. Day zero was pushed back was a result of mass resistance, not because there were other options. I believe there's another person in the audience who wants to raise another comment or question.
Hi, good evening. I'm Rodney. I'm from the Bishop Lavis Action community. I'm an activist in that area. And I would like to touch on the issue of the privatization of water. I think that's the crux of the matter. What we have is an onslaught against the working class from a liberal government, both from national perspective and both from a local perspective or a regional perspective. The issue here is that they want to commodify everything. All the necessities that we live on are now up for sale. And there's a root cause for the whole problem of the water crisis that we have. Apart from the climatic conditions, there's also the issue of the economy. And what has happened on a world scale is we as poorer communities, as the working class communities, we've been paying basically as a result of the inability of government to see to the needs of the working class. Now, there's a report that I've brought along with me, the cost of service delivery, that deals with the protests, service delivery protests across the country. And basically what it means is people, the working class, have been given a raw deal. We are not being paid the, or rather let me put it to you this way. Service delivery protests is as a result of the neoliberal agenda, where government is basically privatizing everything.
In essence, what you're trying to say is that this is a deliberate effort by our government to privatize all the services, including water. So in essence, if you cannot afford, you either die of thirst or you die of diarrhea because you're drinking water that has not been cleaned. Am I correct? And of course, we've heard a contradictory point that was raised earlier, which says whatever is happening now, the day zero being pushed back is a result of the mass resistance. It is not by choice.
Yeah.
So we go back to our panel on that issue, and of course, the key issues that I wanted to raise at this session was the privatization of water. Do you believe that government really wants to privatize water? Is that the purpose?
Yeah, that's the purpose. It's within the framework of neoliberal capitalism, and we want to commodify essential services, water, electricity, and these things. So what the neoliberal capitalists are saying is that water, the value of water should be determined by the market. So when we speak about the market, we speak about profit. It should be determined by whom can afford and who cannot. So as the working class, we know that when water is going to be privatized and in the form of water management devices, we are going to have a relationship with the water management device. Because when that thing cut off after your 350 liters of water, it's only you and your water management device. If you cannot feed that particular device for more water to come, you're cutting yourself off.
I want to understand, when you talk about feeding this device, what do you mean, Ibrahim? In fact, anyone in the panel can respond to that. So are you suggesting that once water has been cut, there will be no drinking water in the house until we put in more money?
Until you go to the city and make an arrangement for extra water, which
Sabrina, you want to contribute to that?
There's a number that you can call and just say that my 350 liters is done, I need to buy more water. That is what they do. Then you buy more water. So this is also a tactic to scare people. From my point of view, is water is not made. If something is made, obviously the tariff is going up, right? But water is not made. Now where is those money going to?
But here's the argument that government would advance is that we deliver the water to you. So for us to be able to service the conduit, which is the system which we use to deliver this water to you, you have to pay for such service. Could it be so wrong? Please convince those who believe that government is correct.
According to me, if that water is up, it's 350. They don't even check how many people is in that household to use that 350 water. And what happens after that water is finished? Where is the people going to get more money to buy even that water? According to me, water is a human right. Why must people have to struggle to get water or be limited with water? Which I don't think it is fair. And we are just using the water, bath water, washing, to clean yourself. If that's finished, then it's up. You must set it. You can wash at this time, the morning, and then you can wash at night. It shouldn't be like that.
Shouldn't be like that. So what I want to talk to you guys about when you come back after this break is the bylaw that has been adopted by the city of Cape Town and this water management device. It's going to be a law, so how do we survive under that? What more can we do beyond the campaigning and of course sending in our grievances to the municipality? I would want to talk to you about that. But at home, don't go anywhere. Stay on that couch and don't touch that dial. We're going on a short break, and please come back. Thank you for joining us. We cross over to Studio 1, where Jorina is waiting for us with the labor news. Jorina?
Broadcasting to South Africa from Cape Town. Now, from our studios in Observatory, we present this week's labor news with local and international news points. Here's Jorina Mgwazi.
Welcome to our weekly Global Labor News. The highlights this week. Health workers to receive outstanding bonuses, Indian farmers embark on a 10-day-long protest, and Jordan's anti-government protest continues to escalate. Good evening. For the past 3 months, members of Nahawu, Danusa, PSA, Hospersa and NUPSO have expressed their frustration, demanding their outstanding performance bonuses for the past 2 years. The recent escalated protest action forced hospitals in the Northwest Province to shut down in early May and turned violent with the Charlotte Maxeke Hospital trashed, non-emergency operations cancelled, and only 19 of the 50 operations scheduled for that day proceeding. The National Education, Health and Allied Workers Union in the Gauteng Province met with the Gauteng Department of Health and Services at the hospital have returned to normal after the department offered to pay workers 2016 and 2017 bonuses by June and the 2017 and 2018 bonuses within the next 3 financial years. Nahawu stated that this is a victory for the members and workers, which came after they ferociously pushed the department to pay all qualifying workers their bonuses. However, the South African Liberating Public Sector Workers Union has condemned the wildcat protest action, and the People's Health Movement South Africa has also withdrawn its membership from the Nahawu Health Subcommittee after Nahawu did not condemn violent protests. And in India, farmers have embarked on a 10-day protest demanding loan waivers and government subsidies in the farming sector. This follows a national protest in March in which 40,000 farmers walked to Mumbai to address the government. Farmers are highlighting the crisis in the sector, which has been severely impacted by drought and crop loss. As a result, farmers are forced to sell produce below minimum support price and find themselves in deeper debt. Prospect for farmers not only have economic consequences, but social ones too, as more than 1,000 farmers commit suicide in the country each year. And finally, Jordanian youth movements, trade unions and civil society groups are continuing to protest against price increases and reforms to tax laws, which directly impact on the cost of living and debt. Protesters say that government has failed to crack down on corruption and does not spend enough on public services to justify such increases. And that concludes this week's Global Labor News. To comment on this evening's topic, send us a WhatsApp message with your opinion on 081 552 4551. Over to you, Ayanda.
Thank you, Jorina. And of course, one cannot help but rejoice over the fact that the strike in the health sector is over. The workers are satisfied, and of course, we will get access to the service. Thank you very much, Jorina, for that. Coming back to our panel discussion, we are talking about the water crisis and how it affects the working class in South Africa. And You know, you guys, we've been talking about day zero, and we're saying that, this day zero has been a hoax in the attempt to privatize water, and of course to allow people to squander the little bit they have, buying all these unnecessary equipment. But we've further seen the city going to desalination, excuse me for that. Do you think it was necessary? And what could be wrong with desalination? Because we've heard the farmer on the insert that we watched earlier saying that actually the city was wrong to say that they've saved water. It is not the community efforts to save water that saved the country, or the province rather, in the Western Cape, but rather because the farmers had not used their water, the full allocation that they were given. So the excess they deposit back into the city dams. Do you agree? Desalination, is it necessary? What is your take on desalination, Sabrina?
Desalination is actually dangerous. It's unhealthy. I mean, just taking salt out of water, is that fresh water? It's unhealthy. It can kill a person. And another thing, how much is it going to cost? Are we doing it in South Africa? It was said at the meeting of Day Zero, it was said that it's too much money. We don't have the material, we don't have the facility to do it. So they're going to ask another country to do it. And how much is it going to cost? 60 to 50 billion. Who's going to pay for that when it's been done? Who's going to pay for that? Where's the money going to come from? From our poor people. And that is unhealthy. It can cause heart attacks. It can cause liver failure. So desalination is totally out of the question. We don't agree with that.
Yes, not at all?
I agree 100% with her. We do not want that.
You do not want desalination?
Not at all. What is going to happen to our people? They're going to die.
But here's the thing. You're going to die drinking desalinated water. You're going to die drinking water from the municipality because it's going to be properly cleaned, because now the claim is that the dams are still releasing sludge. We don't have enough water in the dams as yet. If not that, it would be because of the toxic waste that will be released from unserviced pipes. So what is it going to be?
How many springs are there in our country, in our province?
70.
How many springs are there? How many waters there underground? So Cape Town has enough water for us to survive.
How many springs are there in Cape Town?
70.
In Cape Town. How many springs are there in your community?
We don't
Never
have,
mind Western
We don't
Cape.
have springs in your area. But our people goes out to where they spring. They spend petrol money to go there.
But government
and
wants
now
to close that.
Now these cans are limited. You can take whatever X amount of bottles you have, you can go there. But now it's limited. Now they watch you, okay, you can only take 5 at a time. Now you tell me how much 5 times 5 liters, how long will that last? You know what we do at home? After we do our washing, we take those water and we throw it in these 5-liter cans. And then we throw it into the toilet. My dad, he loves gardening. I got stunning pics on my phone for gardening. My dad didn't even do gardening last year because why? He was like, I need to save water. And it's so unfair. It's seriously unfair. And now they say you cannot use those water for your garden. You cannot use stays of water for your garden. It's going to damage your grass. My dad had to take out his grass. I mean, the man was like, every day spending 2-3 hours in his garden. He cannot garden anymore.
That's his home. My mother is a gardener, fanatic gardener, and of course that has happened. But we're going to come back to the discussion shortly after this commercial break, and at home, do not go anywhere. Thank you for staying with us. This is our last segment. And of course, we're talking about the impact of the water crisis on the working class in South Africa. Before we went on the break, we were talking about desalination. And of course, the popular view with my panelists is that it is unhealthy, it is costly, and of course, as we all know, the cost usually are shifted to the poor to foot the bill. Before we get to the closure of the show, I really want to hear from you as the panelists. What do you think government should do to mitigate this crisis that we are facing and to ensure that the poor do not suffer as much? What should be the role of government in this?
Government always come around with surveys. How many families there is in the house? How many people is there on the property? They always do that. For why? Now, they estimate, they work on 4 people in your house, right? 4 people. Now they give you that 350 liters of water. Now government wants us now to go in with the people on your property that live, the extra people that lives on your property. The government wants now you to take their IDs in and say, yes, 15 people on the property. So that means 50 times 25 liters per person. Now they also always going around, survey. Why don't they do a survey and come around and say, okay, you got 7 people, so your 7 people times the 25 liters. You are 12 people times the 75. We want government to do that. And we want government to stop messing us around. And we want government to give the service to council. And we want to re-municipality the service. That is what we want to do, our service.
What do you think government should do?
I think government must do something else. Take out those water meters. It's been endless problems ever since it's installed in these places.
That's how they make their money, because they overbill you.
They overbill us, yes.
So that's how government probably makes its money. What do you mean
they must take it out? Why can't the people have the free flow water? Ever since this meters was installed, it's endless problems, high water bills. This pensioners, mostly all of the elderly people, they are the owners of the houses, or they're renting it from the city. Now they're sitting with these water bills because of this water meters. It's faulty meters. How can you install a meter for 1 month? 2 months down the line, it must be installed again because the meter is not working properly. So why can't they just take out the meters and do something better?
Before we come to you for Ibrahim, I would like to cross over Jorina. Is there anything on our WhatsApp?
Well, actually, I mean, in relation to this evening's topic, I've actually just noted one of the comments is that this woman is clearly talking a whole lot of sense. Because especially for people who's doing gardening, and especially if you want to take a particular shower in the morning, because you find that the taps are dripping, especially on a Saturday when people literally have to take care of their children's school clothes, etc. So that is in itself a problem, because you can never predict when exactly it's going to happen. And that's it from my side. Tayanda, over to you.
Thanks, Jorina. Thank you so much for the input. Ibrahim, what should government do? Challenges are raised.
I don't know if we can still ask that question. I mean, it's clear. 38,000 people opposed what they wanted to do, and they did not consider what we say. So I think we must be clear that with this current bylaw that has been passed within this few weeks, the attack on the working class has intensified. We need to sit as the working class and say, what are we going to do? What's our political response going to be?
I hear a response from the audience.
Okay. So we need to speak to, I don't think that we can speak to government and say, this is what we want you to do. They are not going to do anything in the working class's favor. They want to privatize it. We know that for desalination plants, there's lucrative tenders in the wing for somebody to make millions. So I think we as the working class, we must come up with some kind of a political solution. How are we going to respond to this? We must take the example from the PD residents in Johannesburg when they ripped out the water meters, took it to the council offices and burnt it right there. They also bypassed it. So we can also take the example of Black in Bishop Blyvers in this current period where they chased out the contractors that wants to install. But this bylaw, they have the right now to bring law enforcement. So what are we going to do as the working class? We need to strategize and organize, but we need to think, we need to also have a people-driven alternative. So we need to get organized, otherwise we're going to die.
Organize, and once you organize, you'll be sorted. That's what Ibrahim is saying.
Yeah.
Don't mourn, organize. One more comment from the floor, very briefly, please.
No, I think I totally agree with what Ibrahim is saying, that I don't think it's up to government anymore. I think government has, with this bylaw, just shown us that, you know, even if you come up with 100,000 votes against this, we will still go and do what we want. That's the same way they come into our communities and they present stuff and they make us believe that we are part of, but actually they came there with a closed agenda already. They have their own plan. So really it's up to us. It's up to us as communities to now say, look, what are the steps that we are going to take? And I think we need to go to jail. You know, because if a water meter comes to my door, I'm going to go to jail, even if law enforcement is there. Because it's either that or I see my children dying. I have kids who have asthma, who have eczema. How are we going to survive if we have a water management device and I'm just a backyarder? So at the end of the day, when that water management device is installed there, the owner of the house is going to say, we can't give you water anymore, because they also have enough people in the house. So, you know, I think it's time for us to say, no more. We don't want this water meter. We refuse it. We will chase them out like Black did, and we will corner them away from our doors, because it's not up to them.
That was a contribution from a community activist who says that we have all these real health challenges, and of course we do also have these economic challenges because there are no jobs. So in as much as you want to pay for bills, you also want a job. We've seen the VAT increase, we've seen the petrol price increase, which means the food will go up, public transport will go up. What do we have as the working class to really pay for these services we're getting? What we've learned today, of course, from our panelists was that these water management devices are really no good to the communities that they're purported to be. The strong feeling that came out is that they should be removed. We've heard that education about water is just not there. It is really not as adequate as it should be. Incorrect billing, privatization of water, and of course making the poor even poorer. Once you treat water as a commodity, your people are going to die. And we've heard that the bylaw that has been adopted has completely ignored the contribution of the people. So what do we do as a community now? That is what you at home need to think about. But for now, this is the end of our show. I would like to thank the panelists. I would like to thank our audience and the crew for the wonderful job that they've done. But remember, if you have any labor-related problems, visit the Department of Labor's labor centers near you, or you can call them or check the website for the details. And we at Workers World believe that a working class united will never be defeated. Thank you and good evening.